yeah, so I'd push back on her reading of Romans 8. I do like the end of that top paragraph on 199. While disability may limit the range and extension of the flesh, though not necessarily of the psyche, which is also organically constituted, it does not necessarily hold the flesh in captivity, in bondage. Social and religious attitudes do. Really like her stuff on her argument slash suspicion that many folks project their fear of death and lack of health someday onto disabled people, and it's just some interesting stuff. I don't know if you've heard of Hildegard of Bingen before. She brings her in on page 200. Hildegard's gotten a lot of theological attention slash press, and certainly in the last few decades. I haven't read much of her. I've listened to some of her music. She was a composer, botanist, probably astronomer, philosopher, theologian, an amazing person. I did not, recurrent bouts of rheumatic fever, this was new to me. Bottom of 200, Hildegard maintained that this instability provided access for the influx of divine authority. The divine voice itself explains to her, thoroughly seared, so to speak, by countless grave sufferings of the body, the depth of the mysteries of God has completely permeated you. Seared by the countless grave sufferings of the body. Sounds a little like a soul-making theodicy to me, doesn't it to you? Some nice stuff here on Hildegard, and I just wanted to flag her name for you as somebody that's keep your eye out for. And actually, as that section came to an end on 202, I thought also of Julian of Norwich, who was probably a century after Hildegard. Both of them, of course, Catholic. Both definitely would qualify as mystics. And Julian of Norwich writes of her remarkable experiences. I could talk about that for a long time. But she also, these experiences arose out of very much a life-threatening disease, probably the plague, and her survival was itself, nothing short of miraculous. I just then want to go to the end, 204. Boy. I haven't read theology like this in a while. Keller, yes. So I guess I do. I do read some of her. This one just challenged me on a different level, I think, with written by someone who has had this really traumatic experience of, an accident that caused the loss of a limb. Reconciling ourselves with the contours of corporeality, the ways that matter and bodies are shaped and fit and don't fit and bump into each other and merge. I'm adding words. Second line under that section on 204. This is the nature of trust in the spirit of life. Now, she's kept her language of spirit pretty, general. It's okay. It's her book. But of course, also spirit of life is very much a biblical category. It, ruach in the Hebrew, I think we've said. And the spirit in Christian tradition is the Holy Spirit. Out of the Nicene Creed, we believe in the Holy Spirit, the spirit of life. Oh, no. We believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord and giver of life, I think is how it actually is put. Trust includes a certain sympathy for spirit, which, and she does mean spirit here, which we might prefer who. Actually, neither who nor which are really adequate, because those are English language pronouns, and we don't know the best way to talk about God, let alone the Holy Spirit. Suffers the cataclysm of vital communities of livelihood. Suffers the cataclysm of vital communities of livelihood, coming to tragic intersections. I don't know. She could even be talking about her accident and the ensuing loss of a limb, the vital community of the cells, organs, muscles that work together, intersecting tragically with another community, frankly. And I don't know what that virus was, but it's a living community. At least if there's more than a single virus there, a single whatever they come in, what virus, molecules. I'm not that kind of doctor. Such sympathy, and right, this is a sympathy for spirit, the spirit that suffers the cataclysm, the crash of vital communities. Such sympathy does not silence the mourning or the anger, but neither does trust theologize our frustration with dependence on the earth as a transcendent longing for elsewhere. I'm speaking my language there. Trust, rather, in a way of abiding with our mortality, is a way where sentience not only confirms the registration of pain, if you're conscious, sentient, you will feel pain, but bedews the body, baptizes it unto life. How do you traverse the tears? And by the way, that could also be the tears. That's a fairly typical deconstructive ambiguity type word, tears and tears. How do you traverse the tears in a tragic nature? In the age of ecstatic rationalism, we have had few teachers. The narrated passages of tragedy to triumph, from grave to glory, these ways of overcoming, continue to scandalize the sentient nature in which we live and move and have our being. The tragic tears must rather be traversed, as with the energy of a blue heron picking its way through a marsh edge, its feet finding a path through that space where life and death course, lose their distinction, yield to transfigurations. Lovely prose. And by the way, theology is an art. And all through my life and career, I have maintained that it's both an art and a science, but it's first and more an art than it is a science. Nothing can stabilize the risk in existence. Isn't that true? I have no way of knowing whether I or any of you will see each other ever again. Justice can provide a clearing for livelihood. Yet, the equanimity, the even-handedness, the even-mindedness of trust offers itself as wisdom for life. Trust. By the way, she's a Lutheran, right? In her upbringing, and probably still identifies as such. The category of trust, very, very important to Martin Luther. Trust offers proximity, nearness to divine potency, divine power, to the Spirit's presence, to life. I'm not going to quibble with her, but maybe a little. I wonder if it's the case, and I would love to ask her, and maybe I'll get a chance, although I haven't been able to get a reply from her. I don't have a phone number or email address. I try to contact her on Facebook, but I don't know how often she looks. So rather than trust offering proximity, it seems to me that trust is living into the conviction of the proximity of divine potency. Trust is about taking the next step, in a life, as she's been saying all the way through. And I say often, we're feeble and frail bodies, mortal flesh, subject to finitude, suffering, and death. I think the Old Testament is very strong on that note. I think, again, also, as I've mentioned a bit, that the crucified Messiah with still bearing wounds is a testimony to that as well. So rather than saying that trust offers nearness, proximity to divine potency, I would restate that. Trust is about taking that next step, even in the most difficult circumstances, in faith, in conviction, in expectation that divine potency, divine power is near, to the Spirit's presence, to life. Yeah, trust does not offer proximity to the Spirit's presence to life. Trust is living in that conviction that God, who is Spirit present in all of the most gritty and difficult steps of our lives. And I remember there was the quotation, I'm almost done, from John Douglas Hall earlier. In fact, so good. I'm going to use my index, find Hall. I don't think he gets mentioned more than once. What? He's not. See, here's another one. The editor did not get. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's under Douglas. Oop. Nope. That's Mary Douglas. John Douglas Hall. Shucks. Well, it was something about, probably if I do this, I might be able to find it. While Lodal lets the clock keep ticking, students' lives are sticking. Well, I think it was after this part. Anyway, it was something about the God who suffers in the suffering of the creatures, and as I said, at that point, she didn't make too many, and she was quoting somebody else, but still, she quoted John Douglas Hall to that effect. Had it on my shelf for a long time. Wanted to read it at some point, and for all of its challenges, I'm really happy that we've worked through this book by Sharon Betcher. Again, remember, feel free to give me. I'll look at a thing like this. If it's a gen ed and I'm asking them to submit notes, so many of them. But you all, come on, this is like I love this little learning community, and if you want to push back on anything I've said or tell me, Lord, I'll stop with the stories. Just say it nicely, and I'll work on it. By the way, have I told?